Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I am here to do my monthly tag video and I found a really awesome one that I haven't heard before and I thought it would be a great one for me to do. And that is the Romance Journey book tag. This was created by Ava's Romance Books, and what's great about this tag is she asked a lot of romance booktubers certain questions they wanted to ask in this tag. So I'll leave all of them down below, which questions they have and things like that. And it's really interesting. It's going to talk about how you've kind of had your journey with romance books and things like that. And as someone that's still kind of newish to it, I thought it would be fun to do because why not? So let's get into it. The first question is, how old were you when you started reading romance? And do you remember the first romance you read? And this was asked by Bex Reads. Honestly, my memory when I first read this question, I immediately thought of Nicholas Sparks. That was my first kind of brush with romance, and I read him when I was pretty young, like when I was 13 or 14 in high school. What books did I read of Nicholas Sparks? I read Knights and Rodanthe. I had no business reading Nicholas Sparks in high school, like when I was 13, 14. But then again, I didn't have any business reading Judith Picoult, but here we are. Anyway, I read that one. I also read The Guardian. I read The Notebook. I read The Last Song. I read like 5 or 6 of his, and that was my first introduction of romance, and I like them. But then when I was moving on with my life, I never really thought of them, and I don't enjoy them a ton now. As far as first kind of going into romance with somewhat newish, I would say it was not even fully romance. It was more chick-litty, and that is I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. This one really introduced me to the world of romance and funniness and chick-lit. So I guess those would be my answer for that one. Question number 2 is, did you deliberately seek out romance or did you stumble upon this, and how? And this is asked by Crystal Bookish Life. For me, I just stumbled upon it, or I would just say it was kind of natural, organic growth. I read YA when I first started my channel when I was, oh gosh, how old was I, like 22 or something? I don't even know. I was reading a lot, primarily young adult. That was where I got my romance from, was young adult contemporaries, young adult fantasies. I was just young adult. And then as I got older, as one does, everyone, my tastes have changed a lot. So I felt like I just kind of came into romance naturally with age, I guess you can say, also while trying to find different genres other than young adult to read and have different romances, I guess you could say. So a little bit of both, I guess. Question number 3 is, did you start out with the traditionally published or indie, and has it switched? This is asked by Ruffalo Reads. I would say I definitely started out with traditionally published. I did read a fair few Colleen Hoover books back in the day. Did she have those published or was she self-published? But for the most part, it was traditionally published. And I would still say to this day, I do read a lot of traditionally published romance books, but I'm starting to get into the indie romance world a little by little, but I'm delving into it more and more because I think it's awesome, and I think there's a lot of great indie romances that are out there that don't get talked about enough. So for me right now, it's a bit of both, but for the most part, it's been traditionally published, I would say. Question number 4 is, what is a romance trope you were afraid to try but ended up loving? And this is asked by Honest Fiction. And I don't know, there's not a trope that, there's still love triangles. I'm not the biggest fan of those. There's only been a couple books where I've really loved that did it right, in my opinion, but for the most part, I do not like love triangles. I guess another one could be fake marriage. I wasn't all into that, but I've read a lot of really good fake marriage ones as well. There's no other tropes necessarily that I'm no thank you, stuff like that. So it's hard for me to be I've changed my mind on it because there's not one that I really don't dislike, I guess you could say. 5, is there a romance book that you read early on in your journey that you would rate differently today? And that is asked by the Love Librarian. Oh, I don't know. Nicholas Sparks, bro. If I were to reread those today, I do not think I would enjoy them as much. That's for sure. Other than that, I don't think so. I think I'm pretty good with my looking back on my ratings of early romance books and feeling the way I do about them now as I did when I read them. Just kidding, I thought of one. Colleen Hoover. I read a lot of her books early on. I think I gave some of them 5 stars. I do not feel that way today about. How has your taste in romance evolved over the years? And that was asked by In Love and Words. I would say for me, I started out with early on Nicholas Sparks. Then I kind of went into the chick lit world when I discovered Sophie Kinsella and fell in love with it. And then I kind of went into the traditionally published route when I first started reading like The Hating Game by Sally Thorne is one of the early ones. I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy. I read a couple of Christina Lauren books, and that was kind of how it started, and how it hasn't changed that much, honestly. I still really enjoy Christina Lauren, Sally Thorne. I do open up more into romance, like I said, with indie authors and things like that. But for the most part, I've stayed pretty much consistent with, like, I guess the romances I pick up. I don't know, did I answer that? Probably not. What is the most powerful romance that you have read that has left a lasting impact? And this is asked by Kayla, is Simply Me. Oh, so many. In Other Words by Christina Lauren, loved it. Like, it's like one of those epic like love story ones. I love that one. It will always stick with me. As well as Float Plan by Trish Dollar. This one's a romance. I wouldn't even know if it is. It's one that has stuck with me. That's a very emotional one. Also, The Happy Ever After Playlist by Abby Jimenez. Those are ones that like have a really big emotional impact on me. I guess you could say also like One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I know the movie just came out. There's a movie, a show. I need to watch it. Also left a pretty good emotional impact on me. Question number 8 is, what is the romance book that told you this is what I'm looking for in my personal life and or partner? And this was asked by First Lady Reads. Oh, that's a question. I was already married when I started getting into romance, but I'll tell you some of my favorite, like, you know, love interest in some books because I got some. Number 1, Jonah from Reborn Yesterday by Tessa Bailey. Chef's Kiss, love him. Top 10, there for it. Also, another one is Jonah from The Simple Wild. Gruff pilot, like, yes, yes, and yes. I love him. A recent one, Noah. So weird to say that because my son's name is Noah and it's a very common name, so I can't, like, you know, be like, I can't ever read a romance with a character named Noah in it, but it's still awkward. But either way, his character in this, loved it. This is an indie romance that I loved. Question number 9 is, which romance books would you recommend to a romance newbie and a seasoned romance reader? Oh, this is asked by Ava's Romance Books. This one I just saw, The Newbie, so we're just gonna go with that. For me, I will recommend my favorite romance, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I think it's a great one. I think a newbie could read it, or a seasoned one. I think they would enjoy it, honestly. Also, Beach Read, I think, is a great one for a newbie to read because it's just a fun one. It's a really cool book about 2 authors that decide to switch genres. They also have a romance going on, and it's a great one. And I always recommend The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. They're a great author duo that are great for newbies or seasoned romance readers. I think they're just enjoyable books overall. I like them a ton. Also another one, The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This one I would recommend to somebody that's a romance newbie that maybe wants to get into a little bit more steam with their books. This is a great one to check out. It's one of my first steamy books and I really enjoyed it. I would like it. Also, I think it would be great for a seasoned person reader. I think it would also be great for a seasoned romance reader as well. The last question, in your eyes, what are 3 perfect romances? And this is asked by Sam Reads a Little. And to me, there's no such thing as that because one person can see as a perfect romance and the other person won't. But I'm going to tell you some of my 3. I'll tell you some of my 3 favorites. One of my recent favorites, Emily Henry's Happy Place. I love this one from start to finish. It's my favorite Emily Henry book. Never thought I would say that, but here we are. I loved it. Another one, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like, she does a lot of, like, her latest books, I wouldn't consider them romance, really. I would consider them more kind of historical, kind of contemporary, I guess you could say, books. But before she did that, she was writing some good old, like, romance chick lit type of stuff, and I ate that junk up, and I loved all of these. So After I Do is about a marriage that decides to take a break, emotional, intense, so good. Maybe Another Life decides to go 2 different routes of a person like's life, and it's also amazing. And One True Loves is the love triangle. I still, to this day, am good with either side. Do not know which side I fall on, but I'm good with either of them. I love them. Like, I'm gonna count all this as one because you guys know I love Taylor Jenkins Reid because she's amazing. And my other perfect romance for me is just, I love The Hating Game. I love it. It's one that I've reread time and time again. I just really, really enjoy it. So yeah, that was all of the questions in the romance journey book tag. This was fun to do this because I'm still a newbie. There's so many amazing romance book channels out there that I can't even like light a candle to them. Is that the saying? Like I can't put like they're so good and I'm just so amateur when it comes to romance, so I would highly recommend checking them out. To me, I'm just a new person getting into romance, especially indie romance, and I'm still trying to find my footing. But either way, this was a fun tag to do. I'll leave all the questions down below if you want to do this tag for yourself or just look at the questions and answer them for yourself. Be sure to do that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.